It had all my notes in it. I cannot find my Playboy. What are you?
Whoa, Dave, we're on the air. We're on the air. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Hoops HD's bracket
I do
rundown.
research with it.
Um, uh, welcome. First of all, introduce who's here. I'm Chad Sherwood. Joining us, first of all, the screen there with the bracket is Joby. Joby, how are you doing tonight?
Doing very well. Yet another Virginia outing where they keep their opponent under 30. Chad, your Rutgers Scarlet Knights are not alone in that category.
We're not alone, and we beat Wisconsin, so hey, which is more than anybody else that Virginia beat by that much can say. Also with us is David Griggs, and we want to do something really special here. First thing before we get going, the ACC this week had a big announcement. They are looking for guest reporters for the ACC Digital Network. In order to apply to be guest reporter, you have to submit a 60-second video. And when I heard the announcement, I said, who better to be a guest reporter for the ACC Digital Network than the #1 NCAA hoops puppet out there, Mr. David Griggs. So, David, are you ready to submit your application?
Well, yes, and again, like the last time, we couldn't find the newspaper article, but you recall the last time I went to the ACC headquarters, I was forcibly ejected because they said I was intoxicated and I was uninvited and had no business being there. I don't know what that's about. The ACC used to be a good league. It had the 4 Tobacco Road teams. It had Maryland, which was also a natural rivalry. It had Florida State, Georgia Tech. And then they did something crazy. They decided that some of the best rivalries in college basketball, one of the better college football programs, Florida State, that wasn't enough. So they decided to go from 9 to 12, and they gutted the Big East. And this started a chain reaction, which inevitably ended up ruining college athletics as we know it, because it went from the Big East expanding to the Big Ten expanding. And the SEC needed to expand, and when the SEC expanded, what they did was that they took Missouri out of the Big 12, and we no longer have Kansas and Missouri anymore. The greatest rivalry. This is what the ACC has ruined for all of us. I mean, they've ruined America. They used to be good, and now it's. And then they blame me for being intoxicated, out of line, and uninvited, and forcibly eject me.
Time's up. Well, there we go. ACC Digital Network. That's what you get by getting David Griggs. We urge you to select him.
Well, they better. I mean, another thing they did, they ruined the backyard brawl by taking Syracuse.
You know, the only thing you didn't do there is tie Tim Miles in, David, but I was...
Well, no, I mean, I was getting to that, but I mean, I was going to talk about how there's just no, as good as the ACC was and sort of still is, there's no coaches as good as Tim Miles.
You do know the backyard brawl was Pitt, West Virginia.
Yes, they busted it up when they took Pitt.
Not Syracuse.
When it was Pitt, West Virginia. Yeah, well,
they still have that great Pitt-Syracuse rivalry, though.
Hey, Griggs is drinking again.
Joby, shut up.
Anyhow, to get onto the serious stuff here, Joby, you're going to take over from here. I believe you're going to act as our moderator here tonight as we build an S-curve right here on the show, and then we'll be taking that S-curve after tonight, and by tomorrow morning, hopefully we'll have it up on the site as a actual bracket. So,
right, and how I think this will work is that both David and Chad have put together S-curves. As we know from past podcasts, they can often be quite divergent. I will try to do my best to weigh and see if we can come up with a common agreement, much like the committee has to at the exact same time way.
Right. So essentially, I mean, Chad used to just arbitrarily make changes and veto things. So now you are that person. You can agree with one of us or neither of us and just do your own thing. I think this is how that's going to... And it can't be any worse than Chad running it. So I'm glad you're here, Joey.
You know, I'm sorry that I'm always right. It's just a fault I have. I'm going to have to try to work on this as we move forward here.
I'll try not to be too tied to what I like to call the nitty-gritty ratings. So.
Right. And again, what's going on right now, just so our viewers realize, you're starting to see bracketology all out there. ESPN's been doing it all year. I think CBS does it. You're seeing more and more and more of it. What actually happens with the actual committee is there are 10 members. They're from 10 different conferences. They have 3 conferences that they monitor as primary targets. They basically watch every game. They're supposed to go see games in person. And then they have 7 secondary conferences. And right now, the real committee isn't really doing the kinds of things we're going to be doing tonight. Now, they're assessing teams. They're having weekly discussions. There actually is a weekly discussion that they have. There's daily emails. It's very much like what you see on our site, talking about certain games and why they're important. It's not exactly what we do, but essentially they're coming up with a general assessment of teams. How we go through the year is basically influenced by what the committee does, but it's not identical to what the committee does because, quite frankly, if we didn't rank the teams, it would just be boring. So,
but
one of the things.
Example of what David's talking about is tonight.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, the ACC representative is talking to the whole group, saying, "Look at this NC State Miami game. These are 2 teams right on the edge of either being in or out. Let's pay attention to this game."
Yeah.
Which neither team's ranked, but both teams are very much under consideration. So
right.
It's that sort of game that they would bring to the fore.
Yeah, and other things come into play too that I don't think most people realize because you are assessing the whole conference. The 5th place team in the MAC, I don't know who it is off the top of my head, is not a tournament team, but they might be really tough to beat at home. And if that team's really tough to beat at home, the person in charge of monitoring the MAC will say, well, yeah, this might not be a quality win on the rankings, but look at what this team's done at home. They only lost 1 or 2 games. And so there's a couple of things that I think people scratch their heads because they're not categorical. It's not just top 50. It's not just top 100. It's a very thorough examination, and really that's what they're going through now is just kind of generally categorizing teams. But we're going to go beyond that and rank them.
Right. And just to fill in here, the way the committee actually does is first they will select the field of 68, then rank them, then bracket them. We're not going to do the bracketing at all on the air here. We'll do that afterwards. Selecting and the ranking we're going to do together at the same time, just because otherwise we're going to be on for about 7 hours, and we don't have that time tonight.
Yeah, and just for the sake, and Joby's got another responsibility here. For the sake of this, the highest team in the rankings is going to be our conference champion. So just as you go through, Joby, make sure we don't lose count of the 37 at larges.
Right.
Okay. And I'll be double checking on that too. So
okay. All right. I won't be. I'll just be drinking over here. So let's jump right into it. My one line. I'm sorry. Joby's. Who goes first? Call on somebody.
Well, why don't we go since David wanted to go so badly? Chad, what's your one line?
What the hell?
My one line is Kentucky, Virginia, Gonzaga, Arizona.
Okay, I have Kentucky, Virginia, Gonzaga. I actually have Duke up there. I think the road wins at Whiskey and at Louisville are more impressive than anything I think Arizona's done. I like this Duke team. I will say this. I realize it's pretty much assumed that if Kentucky wins out and goes for the double, they'll be the number 1 overall seed. What if Virginia wins out and goes for the double? And by the double, I mean finishing first and winning the conference tournament. The ACC is better than the SEC. Does Virginia have a shot at the number 1 overall if they both tie? I don't have them up there now. I'm just food for thought later on.
I honestly, I don't think. No offense, Joby, I don't think Virginia goes undefeated. I think Virginia does fall at some point here.
Well,
so I think it's a moot question until we get another month of
games.
Oh, okay. Well, when you have a better question, feel free to ask it.
Are the stretch to watch for Virginia? I mean, you've got at Blacksburg, which Virginia Tech's awful. It's the worst team in the conference, but yet because of the rivalry, you always in that awful bandbox. You don't know what happens. Followed by game day with Duke, North Carolina, Louisville. I mean, that's a tough little stretch. I don't foresee Virginia in the next 4 games coming out undefeated, even as a Virginia alum.
Uh, I think our debate here on this line, kind of getting back to where we are on this spot here, Arizona versus Duke for the 4th 1 seed. I just looked at that Arizona win over Gonzaga. Duke doesn't have a win over somebody else that's above them on this list. Arizona does.
Wisconsin's so close, though.
Yeah,
Wisconsin
close,
Duke
but it's
does have
not.
the 2 road wins. I
line.
mean, that's
It's a great win.
And you could add in an Arizona win at Stanford as we record this about 5 minutes
Right.
left. It looks like they're going to get.
Arizona's up 9 with 5.5 to go. It's not a done deal, but it does look good for the Wildcats right now. For right now, Duke is where I'd have to go with the choice of those two. I actually have another team that I'd put in, but I will cede to the others. Between those two, I'm seeing the team that will be playing at game day in 9 days in Charlottesville. I think it's a 1-versus-1 matchup.
Who the hell let an ACC guy moderate this thing?
But, the fact is, Duke is, you can't argue too much. Arizona's I like Arizona. The recent slip-up, gets me a little. Duke has that amazing road win in Madison. That's probably the tiebreaker. Though, you know what? After tonight, I'd have to reassess. But assuming Arizona pulls off the win against the Cardinal in Palo Alto tonight. But it hasn't happened yet. For now, I'll go Duke.
all right.
And I have no problem if David does not putting the Wildcat 5 on the S curve.
Yeah. So, I still have Arizona on this line, but my next 3 teams are Whiskey, Kansas, Nova, and Arizona.
Yeah.
So this is the 2 line that we're talking about now.
My 2 line, at 6 through 8, I have exact same order: Whiskey, Kansas, Villanova.
Yeah.
For some reason, we agree, and I don't like that.
I don't know. Right.
I'll be honest, the team that the more I look at their profile, I fall in love with are the Kansas Jayhawks. They have played a brutal schedule. This is Georgia circa 16 and 14 Georgia, brutal. And they have come very well. Yes, they lost Iowa State recently. Who wouldn't in Iowa in that place? Kansas is a good team. Their worst win is over a Texas Tech team that still might get CIT bid status, and every single game has been against a team in the top 200, not 300, 200.
I'll tell you, we brought this up, I think, on Sunday night about this Kansas team here. This Big 12 is the best conference, top to bottom, and I don't think there's any doubt about that.
So, best ever, I say top to bottom.
It might be.
Really is. Texas Tech's your bottom dweller. That's crazy.
So if Kansas does win the regular season title outright and wins the conference tournament, don't they belong on the 1 line?
Without a doubt, in my mind, they are on the 1 line right now in my book. And I know that's crazy to say. They are my team, not Duke. And I can be castigated for that because of the 3 losses, but I'm sorry. Their schedule's brutal, and they've done well against that brutal schedule. And, take out the Kentucky game, I think that's shaded a lot of people's opinions of this Kansas team. Kentucky can do that to anybody.
Yeah. And subconsciously, because it was such a beatdown, I agree. I think that when you look at the paper, you realize, man, this is a really good Kansas team. So very deserving of the 2 line, perhaps even the 1 line. If they go for the double, they might get it. So
I just don't think they're there yet, mostly because it's with 3 losses in mid-January, and but if they're still there with 3 or 4 losses in mid-March, a very different story.
Yeah, for sure.
Who's up? My turn?
Whatever Joby says.
Actually, let's go with David.
All right, well, next.
Because it'll be like a snake draft, you get to go first, and 2 and 3 go next.
This is a team that's kind of high. I have Utah at number 9. I really like this Iowa State team. I realize they had to sweat out a rather unimpressive K-State team in their last home game, but I still have them at number 10. Maryland, I did this again. You have to do this on Thursday night. We would like to do it on Sunday, a much less busy night. So I would probably knock Maryland down. So let's go with Louisville and Notre Dame would be my next 2 teams on this line.
I actually agree 100% with David on this Utah team. I have them right there on that 9 spot. My teams here, 10, 11, 12, a little bit different. I've got North Carolina sitting here at 10, Wichita State at 11, and Louisville at 12. I think this Notre Dame team still has not completely proven itself to me, and Maryland just got blown out at Indiana. That's why I have them down to line lower as well.
I'll be honest, guys. I'm not sold on Louisville at all. Just happened. They did beat Indiana. I will say that. I'm not sold on Indiana.
Well, they beat Indiana and they beat Long Beach, beat Cleveland State. I mean,
but I mean, they beat an Ohio State team that I don't know if we'll be talking about when we get to seeds 12 or not. But,
right. So you like do you like Notre Dame better than Louisville?
I really like Notre Dame. Notre Dame they had some RPI poison that makes them look worse than they are, but their offense. They could improve a little on the defensive side, but their offenses can compete with anybody. I mean, Connaughton, Grant, these guys are good. It's a strong team. I actually think Notre Dame is better than the other ACC teams in that collection. But that's my opinion. If you guys agree on Louisville as a 3, I have no problem.
Well, I think we're talking kind of Louisville, North Carolina, and Notre Dame right here, 3 ACC.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to overdo ACC there. I actually like both North Carolina. Yeah, I know North Carolina. I like both North Carolina and Notre Dame over Louisville right now. But with Notre Dame first, North Carolina next, Louisville next. But that's but you're going to get a shocking statement out of me. I think Notre Dame. I think Maryland. I think this game tonight was an anomaly for Maryland, and we shouldn't be stuck too much on recency. I think Maryland could compete for that Big Ten title with Wisconsin.
Right. Well, I had them. I mean, I thought I had them high to begin with. So again, I'm not talking about moving them all the way down. They would still be on my 4 line.
Yeah, me too.
So, but I really like, and again, like Maryland, another ACC. Never mind.
So we've got Utah and Louisville, Joby. I think the other 2 teams we threw out there, I threw out Wichita State. David threw out Iowa State.
Yeah, I have Wichita on my 4.
I'll be honest. Iowa State, Kansas State, I think is legitimate as a contender. They just got off to such a slow start.
Well, Bruce Weber is still coaching there.
I don't think it is a bad team. I would go with Iowa State in a heartbeat. And like I said, Notre Dame, if I'm breaking ties, I think Notre Dame's the best of those ACC teams.
All right. So are we agreeing then that North Carolina belongs in the 13 spot here?
I'd have no problem with that. I think Maryland, though, could be there as easily, too.
Yeah, because I would have North Carolina then Maryland.
Wait, it's not your turn.
Well, well, I just figured if you wanted to get
and we haven't said Wichita State yet, who is a solid team. I have no problems with Wichita State. I just have the teams that we have listed there above them, except ironically, I might have Wichita State ahead of Louisville. I'm just down on Louisville. I know I'm an outlier when I say that. So.
The other team that I think is in the mix here, I think you just mentioned Maryland, North Carolina, Wichita State. VCU is the other team that I have in the mix here for a protected seed.
I have VCU at number 16, so that would be on the same line, the 4 line.
So I think we agree on the 4 teams. It's just the order we don't agree on.
Right. Okay. So
I think it's some mix of North Carolina, Wichita State, and Maryland here.
Right. All right, Joby, this is what you're here for.
Yeah, this is where I actually think Maryland should be on the last line.
Okay.
North Carolina is really playing better right now. I need to see just one more week of what they've done. One more week of what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, the sky's the limit. I mean, UNC plays Louisville this weekend. That's going to be a nice game that will show this seed lines a lot. I think North Carolina wins that game. If North Carolina does, they're easily on the 3. Louisville goes back to the 5, where I think they actually belong.
Okay. And I guess we're down to the 5 line now.
And there we go. Here we now see the 5, 6, and 7 seeds, and I think this is where we're going to really start to disagree. My 5 line right now is Northern Iowa, SMU, Texas, and West Virginia.
Well, you got 2 of the teams right. You have Texas and West Virginia are correct. The other team I have on the 5 line is this good Davidson team, followed by San Diego State.
There is no good Davidson team.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. They suffered an injury. Their leading scorer and key player went out. They were already pretty good. They were 10-1 out of conference. I mean, there's teams on the 2 line that didn't do that well out of conference. And so there's that. And on top of that, we have to look at what they've done since they lost their key player, and they beat a ranked team at home. Joby, put him in. Put him in.
This
Davidson
wins are over.
So might be in the play-in.
No, put him on. Put him on the. What are you doing?
No, good Davidson. Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, good for you. You beat UNC Wilmington, Charlotte, Stetson, Montana, Charleston, Campbell, Niagara, and Catholic. I mean,
most of those teams started the season high in the top 20.
Let's see how normal Davidson goes. Good Davidson can compete with Virginia, as we saw in the first half of that game. Bad Davidson can then get blown out. What is, and this is a very serious question. I was planning on doing the research in advance on this. What is Gibbs's long-term status at Davidson? Is he gone for an extended period of time? Is there? I'm not aware of it, because he's the real deal. That kid is amazing, and so I'm. What is his? Do either of you know?
It's
what
indefinite.
The update is it is a slight tear in his meniscus. They're hoping it could be a week, but it could be longer.
Okay. And as long as he is back, they've won a key game, as Greg said. But let's get real; they don't have the profile for a 5. But let's get back to him later, because we'll keep them in mind. I don't think you can remove them altogether from the bracket.
But in terms of seriousness here, Texas, West Virginia. My other 2 teams were Northern Iowa, SMU. David, I think you mentioned San Diego State.
I actually had Baylor and San Diego State right behind Davidson.
After what I saw from Baylor against, what in the world was that last night?
Huston Tillotson.
Tillotson. Baylor gets punished for now. Without a doubt, they're getting punished for that awful performance. One team or 2 teams that I would throw in here that I'm sure you guys have coming up that I would actually put in, but I will defer to you guys once again. 2 teams that are bouncing around. They may have squeaked by, but they did squeak by. Look at Butler's profile.
I'll tell you, I have Butler sitting at number 21, right on the top of the 6th line, and I'd have no problem with them moving up to the 5.
I actually have them at the bottom of the 6th line, and the reason being I love their profile. They have great wins away from home. There's just something about them on the court that's a little – I just don't think they're quite there yet. Now, again, the paper definitely is there.
The other team is actually, and I hate to make it, but this is how good the Big 12 is. Oklahoma Sooners.
Oh,
Yeah.
now by mentioning Butler and Oklahoma, you just mentioned my team's 21 and 22. So that is the top of my sixth line.
It is, yeah. That's 3/4 of my sixth line. I'll get to who the other team is in a second because I had to move them down from the fifth line. But right now we're just still worried about the five.
But you don't like Northern Iowa or SMU this high. I know that's a stretch on SMU the way they started, but I think this team is playing very
I
quietly and
agree. I
very
think
well
Gary
right now.
Brown's got something going. I'm not anti those teams. I just like those. I find there's an eliteness quality
Yeah.
that I see out of Oklahoma and Butler that I actually SMU can get there. I don't see it out of UNI.
Okay.
UNI I think is perfect for the next seed, but for some reason I just can't make the move there.
Okay, my only problem is I like Northern Iowa and SMU on the court a lot, especially the way SMU's been playing. I just don't think the paper is there, and I kind of got caught up in trying to match what I think the committee is going to do, and there's certain members on this committee that I think will look at SMU, and I don't think they don't have currently a top 50 win, do they?
They do not.
Yeah, I think that works against them, but not necessarily. Like
right on the edge.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 2 wins right on the edge, which
Right. I think Northern Iowa honestly would beat Butler if the two were to play, but I just think Butler on paper would impress the committee more. Take that as you will, Joby. I don't know. Make some decisions here.
Well, you know what? I think we got to go with paper right now at this stage until I get more eye testing.
Okay.
What were Chad? What were your other 2 teams?
My teams are Northern Iowa or SMU.
And David, besides Davidson, what was your other ones there?
Mine, my next one would have been San Diego State, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State are going down the list here. This is in my 6th range.
I'm just going to throw in. I'll take over and put Oklahoma, but then, actually, the way they're playing right now, you're right. SMU deserves a lot of look.
And I'd agree with Steve that San Diego State needs to be right up here at this point.
And I cannot disagree. San Diego State.
Okay.
Just had that sloppy loss. I mean, just awful sloppy loss, and it just really comes into play.
It does. Now, for the other team I have up here, since we had to knock them down, is Davidson. And this is more about Chad not getting his way than anything else.
Excuse me while I slam my head into the wall here for a moment.
I know we'll be, and the shame is I would have loved to have talked about this team until tonight.
Joby, put him in.
Damn you, Seton Hall. You took away a lot of fun tonight.
Wait, are you
Seton Hall?
I was thinking the Hall here.
What about Davidson? Good Davidson.
I'll tell you who really does belong here, I think, especially after tonight's performance, is the Indiana Hoosiers.
Indiana, I am Galen, yeah.
No, stop turning my microphone off.
I'm there.
Now, I think David, reading his lips, he's saying yes.
If I'm going to put that team at number 13, I have no problem putting that team even higher than 24 if need be.
I think David is showing us exactly what he thinks of our selections here. Okay, maybe we need to get him back off of
now, we do have, I know that David mentioned Baylor. Do we now start discussing Baylor on the
now that I'm allowed to talk again?
Well,
I think Baylor way up on the 5 line.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh well, I'm locked in. Okay.
And I'd agree with Baylor definitely here if we haven't put them in yet. I think that's the right spot for them.
I'm going to not misspell Wichita. I mean.
Wichita. Okay. Are both Oklahoma and Okie State in yet?
Oklahoma State is not, and they're a solid team.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I like Oklahoma more. But
Okay, two teams I had on the 6 line. Okay, again, we have fun with this, but at the end of the day, we want to get back to what we actually think it is. I know that this is probably way higher. I like this Miami team a lot. I had them on the 6 line. I don't know. I figured that was higher than what you would have them. I like them a lot. And, there's other teams in the Mid-American Conference I like too, but I really, really like this Miami, Ohio team. And let's see, who else did I? Yeah, Oklahoma State was the other one that I had up on the 6th. That is.
yeah. Chad, do you? What is your feel on Oklahoma State?
Actually, my 7 line after Baylor, I have Georgetown, Miami, Oklahoma State. So I agree with both Miami and Oklahoma State here. And my 3rd team would be Georgetown.
I really like the Georgetown call. There is one team that I think has slipped a little bit, and they did get a nice. It was a tight one, but it was a nice win actually tonight. Was Arkansas. This is where I start saying, wait, this team did win on the road at that number 21 team right there.
Well, you know what? I don't like this Arkansas profile right now. Yes, they did win at SMU. They won at Georgia. But they really haven't done much else. A home win over a Dayton team that's slipping, a home win over Alabama tonight by a miracle. They tried to everything they could to blow it and somehow pulled it out.
Well, yeah, I think they should be penalized. Did you see the end of regulation of that game?
Wins of teams we'll be discussing. At least Dayton. I mean, Alabama's probably out.
I think Arkansas is in the field. I'm not down that, but I think they're about 2 or 3 lines lower than this at the moment.
Right.
Yeah. I had them on the 7. They were on my 7. Northern Iowa, we've already put into the field. Have we put Indiana in yet?
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe I need to pay attention. Or is Georgetown in yet?
No.
I had them on this 7 line as well.
Miami.
Miami, who's also not in yet. I had them on.
Actually, both of you. Hey, Chad, where did you have Baylor?
I had Baylor exactly where we put them at number 25.
I had them all the way up at 18. I had Miami at 23, which would have put them on the 6.
There's Miami of Ohio.
Oh, wait, perfect. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, I am fine. I'm just trying to look. Is there anybody else on my 7 that isn't in yet? Northern Iowa's in. Georgetown's not in.
Is in.
Arkansas, we don't have them in.
I have no problem putting Georgetown in at 20.
I'm going to say this about Arkansas. Looking at my S-curve, I have 2 more SEC teams in before Arkansas.
See, we had this debate earlier of who is the second best SEC team, and Georgia's a reasonable. Georgia's a reasonable one to discuss.
I think Georgia's the 3rd.
Yeah. Who did you? Oh, LSU.
I think LSU is the second best SEC.
Which is LSU's right there too. I can't really fault that. One team that is starting to raise up at this point that I actually think wins at the end of the day the American is Cincinnati.
You think they're on the rise?
I agree.
I think Cincinnati beats out SMU for that title.
I watched them play the other night, and I wanted to pour hot water.
They're painful.
In my eyes.
How painful Wisconsin and Virginia are to watch. That's wrong. Cincinnati is painful to watch.
Oh, God.
I'm trying to set up a Cincinnati-Wyoming game here just as a late non-conference game just for the enjoyment factor, but having a lot of trouble.
Just have them play Pitt again, and we'll be...
Cincinnati is... Cincinnati, do I even have them in? Yeah, they're in my first 4. I mean, barely inside the bubble.
I have them much higher, but that's just me. They have some nice wins. They have 2 top 25 wins. They have.
I'm with Joby on them. I have them in my 9 line. So.
Yeah, but anyway, go ahead with the next round, David.
Okay, let me see. Northern Iowa's in, Indiana's in, Georgetown's in. I'm trying to see if we have anybody not in. The next line I have Stanford, Iowa, Seton Hall, and LSU. But the one holdover that is not in my field yet is Arkansas. They would have been ahead of the rest of them.
Yeah.
So
I actually do have.
Arkansas, Chad. So what are your view of the other 4 teams?
I agree with you on Seton Hall, LSU, and Iowa. I have all 3 of those on this line. My 4th team here, still not Arkansas. I have Colorado State, and I know that might be a stretch. But
oh boy,
it might be a bit
and
of
you
a
talk
stretch.
about good Davidson's out of conference.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking. That is a first 4 team if I've ever heard one, in my mind.
I'm just look at the gaudy record and looking at them closer, I think I probably overrated them. In which case, I would go to my next team, which is Stanford.
And so both of you had Stanford then.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, obviously before their loss tonight, which is fine.
But I anticipated that they would not win.
Yeah, I don't drop them down for this at all.
It's not like a big embarrassment. I don't have a problem putting Stanford in here.
So that's the 8. All right.
All right. Now we have 37 at largest, right? You said.
Yes. Oh, God. We're supposed to be.
Yeah, we're still okay. We have.
No, we're going to be good through the. It almost works out perfectly for the top 12 seed lines.
Right.
So,
Okay.
We've got a lot of at-large spots left still to fill.
Yeah.
Right. Oh God. Because of other responsibilities, I'm going to try and ask a question here to make it look like I know what happened when I really don't. What did you guys think of that overtime session of that Old Dominion Middle Tennessee game?
I think that Old Dominion lost.
Oh boy.
I think
Old Dominion went up by 1 or 2 in overtime. I turned my head and I looked back and they're down by 10, and I'm like, oh
boy. So I would probably.
And Conference USA just became a 1-bid league, maybe. They can't. If Old Dominion makes a run, including a UTEP win, maybe they get back. But boy, that's tough.
Well, and UTEP just lost tonight to Western Kentucky, so maybe it's Western Kentucky.
Oh wow! Well, Western Kentucky's a good team. I mean,
Western Kentucky runs
the team, but they're a good team.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, the Conference USA is not a bereft conference, but boy, that you can't lose to the middles, MTSU's of the world. So
okay, so I think it's safe to say that Old Dominion would not be on this line.
Yeah, let's go, David. What is your line here?
Well, not Old Dominion. I had Providence. SMU's in, aren't they?
Providence had a nice win tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nice win. Yeah, I know that it's over the alma mater of Griggs's brother, but
right. Well, the other thing, it's over a team that has done absolutely nothing away from home. But yeah, I had Providence, Michigan State, Dayton, and Colorado State. That's doing some shifting here because I believe SMU is already in.
Yeah.
Is Seton Hall in? Have we put them? Okay.
Yes.
My line here, actually, David, and we still haven't gotten Arkansas in yet. I would have Arkansas in this.
Oh, Arkansas, yes, I would definitely have Arkansas.
I'll start with Arkansas. I think that's.
We really have them 2 lines too low.
My other 3 teams on this line, though, are NC State, Cincinnati, and Georgia.
I'm just not seeing it with Cincinnati. I am going to lose, and we're going to be wrong because you are going to see it with Cincinnati. What Joby says, but not seeing it with them yet. Georgia, I could see they're actually on my 10 line, so we're not worlds apart there.
Well, you heard me. Yeah, I warned you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake.
Like that. But you know what? They're in that 8-9 game like they are every year. They'll lose it. Don't worry. They'll lose to the Iowa that they play or whatever.
Well, I don't have anything against Cincinnati. I just don't think they're very good this year. I mean, especially
by Providence. I'm going to reward them with a nice win there. And so we're dealing with Dayton,
Michigan State. I had on this line.
Georgia.
So both of you had Colorado State.
Colorado State.
Iowa? Oh, yeah, I was in. All right.
I will. While I'm not a Colorado State fan, I will cede to the group think on that.
Yeah, because where did I? Yeah, I had them on the 10 actually. So
speaking of the 10 line, my two holdovers are NC State and Georgia, and to them I would add Michigan State and Dayton as the next two teams.
I have NC State and Georgia on this line. They're not holdovers. They're on the correct line. Very well done, Joby, putting them on the correct line. I have Dayton on this line, and who was the other team?
Both of you have mentioned all four teams I just typed in: NC State, Georgia, Michigan State, and Dayton. You have the same top 40.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, except for one missing team. The
Davidson. Good Davidson.
Well, actually, we don't have the same top 40 because I think you guys both have Providence way too high, but I'm not going to fight on that one. But
well, you're wrong, and you would lose. So, anyway, what's our count right now?
Well, our count, we have space for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 more at-large teams.
Okay, so so after the next 4 at-large teams, we're into the first 4, right?
Right. But I think
one conference champion that would even be closely considered.
I have a conference champion right here. I think Old Dominion is here. I think in this 11 line.
Actually, this is where I start thinking. In all seriousness, this is where I start thinking about the good in Davidson.
Well, let me tell you, my 4 teams here would be Old Dominion, along with St. John's, George Washington, and non-George Washington, regular Washington, bad Washington.
Yeah. Let's see. Where are we? The 11 here is. Let me see. Is NC State in? NC State's in. I have GW on this line. Georgia. Oh wait, we already got them in. My line is George Washington, the Johnnies, Syracuse, and Illinois. But I mean, again, Old Dominion is probably where I would put them, even after the. Oh boy, what a horrible loss! You could make a case that Old Dominion shouldn't be in at all. I think they should be, but they're really, really close to the bubble.
I can't go with you. Hughes has a misleading ACC record. They have they're not out of consideration, but I just can't see them in this field.
I do not have Q's in my field at all.
And that's the ACC guy talking. You know.
Okay. But it's a Big East team.
Washington. I'll listen to Washington. I like them a little, but what about this Tennessee team?
Yeah, very interesting. I think Tennessee is definitely considered in the next handful of teams, without a doubt.
Joby, David and I spoke a little earlier today via email, and he mentioned that he had Tennessee in his field. I didn't have them on my board, and I don't think they belong on my board.
Well, we just put in an Arkansas team. Yeah, we just put in an Arkansas team at 9 that Tennessee recently beat.
And that's all they did all season.
Yeah, well,
They beat Kansas State at home. They beat Butler at home.
They beat Butler, and now they're home court heroes. But you know what? They've done more than Ohio State.
What are their road wins? I don't have them.
I used Ohio State as my barometer because it seems like whenever I do an S curve, Ohio State is either the first in or first out team. It's like, okay, are you better than Ohio State or are you worse? That's my barometer team, and I have Tennessee better right now.
Where did you have like what has Tennessee done on the road? They have 3 wins away from home, don't they?
The best road win was South Carolina.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, they beat Angry Frank. Put them in.
And on top of that, yeah, that is a South Carolina team that beat
David,
Iowa State. I'm not saying they're great, but they did beat an Iowa State team who was legitimate 2 seed.
David, I just want to mention this. On my S curve of teams below that are not even in the field, I have Tennessee below Davidson.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I have Tennessee below Davidson as well. I have Davidson up on the 5 line.
And I honestly say this may be where we start talking Davidson. But
well, we got St. John's and GW again. My other 2 teams were Old Dominion and Washington.
And both of you had Old Dominion, as I remember.
Yeah.
So
What about Illinois?
I had Illinois in my first four, so which would have been the very next line.
I have Illinois out right now, but they did get a nice win yesterday. Or not a nice win, but a win they needed to get.
Yeah.
Yesterday. They're definitely under consideration, but for me, I just can't. I mean, hell, they're the only win Ohio State has worth of crap.
Okay,
know?
since we're kicking it around, I don't know if this is a team that has an alarmingly low RPI, but I think when I look at them, I like everything else about them except how painful it is to watch them play. That is Cincinnati's double Wyoming here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they are in my first four, but I mean they are right in this conversation. I mean,
well, where we are now, actually, this is going to be the last at-large team before the first four. I think I may have given you the wrong numbers before I just recounted.
Right.
So my last five at-large teams are Washington, who I previously mentioned, Ohio State, St. Mary's, Wyoming, and Illinois.
yeah, mine are Illinois, Tennessee, Wyoming, Cincinnati, who we already have in about 17 lines too high. I have St. Mary's, who's playing.
Both have St. Mary's, which I would have out right now. But
it's a bloated record, but I don't know. We're not talking. I don't know who else you would have in instead. I don't have Washington in. I could see. I could. They're my first team out.
St. Mary's has. Or sorry, I take that back. They have two top 100 wins.
Yeah,
but that's been enough for our first four bid in the last few years.
Yeah. I just. But you're comparing them to people like, as you mentioned, Washington, and you know what? If I'm going to go with a team that has only two top 100 wins, oh wait a minute, Davidson has three top 100.
Well, that's why they're.
That's my point. I mean, that's where I go.
Well, let me tell you, these are my first four teams out were Ole Miss, Syracuse, Xavier, and Davidson.
Yeah, mine were Washington, Xavier. Washington is my next in line, first team out, last whatever they're next on the rankings list, followed by Xavier, Ohio State, and Davidson. Chad's been messing with my rankings.
Real Davidson.
All the way down to the first.
That is real Davidson.
Real Davidson.
Has been messing with
and below them, I have Tulsa, Alabama, Texas A&M, and somewhere way below Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's weird that your Tennessee's that low, to be honest. But that's an anomaly to it a little bit.
But again, they won. They beat Angry Frank. So.
Wins. Two top 36 wins. So.
Yeah.
Well, Joby, you're the arbiter here. Who's our last team in? Our last non-first four team in.
Our last non-first four team. I'm going to have to full rank and make it Tennessee. Rocky Top.
Oh!
The pain.
Look at that!
You guys just love to be wrong, and that's
I just.
All right.
Okay. So we'll have I know you're speechless, but hey.
So now we have two teams on the 45 line and two teams on the 46 line, which will be our first four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, my first four, and we need to move Cincinnati all the way down here. I have St. Mary. Okay. Among the ones that are not in yet, Syracuse, I have them in. You don't even have them on your board, Chad. How do you not even have? How far out are they?
Syracuse missed by two teams. They were my second team out. Yeah.
Okay, the teams that I have inside the bubble that we have not put in the field, I have Syracuse and Illinois inside the first four, and I have Wyoming, Tennessee in the first four, who we've already put in. I have Wyoming and St. Mary's would be my other two teams.
Well,
I agree with my first team out.
I agree with David on St. Mary's, Wyoming, and Illinois all being in the field.
Yeah.
I have all three of those teams in my field. My last team in is Ohio State, as opposed to, actually, what would be Washington? Now that you've bumped them out by putting Tennessee in.
Washington's my first team out. So.
And I've got to go with Washington there.
Okay.
But Washington, Illinois, St. Mary's. What was the? And I'm missing it.
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
You
So
know, there's
Wyoming was.
we might not have. Yeah. Okay. Good. I wanted to make sure. I had forgotten where we had put Sparty, and I was like, going really?
Yeah. Okay.
I need Sparty in. You know.
All right. So that's our bubble. I mean, from all the way.
Actually, and am I allowed to make and this is not for gamesmanship or showmanship. Am I allowed to make a substitution here?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're actually I mean, it has to be in good
because
faith.
my first team out, my second team out. My first team out is Ohio State.
Right.
Okay.
My second team out is Wyoming, and I honestly have this team in instead of them. And I'm not kidding when I say that. It's not for gamesmanship. I actually do think they will give Davidson, as the profile exists today, a shot.
Well, I have fought David on this Davidson team a lot here, and I don't think they were anywhere close until last night when they beat Dayton.
Well,
I
here's
agree
the thing
they
about
are
Wyoming.
very close.
Look at Wyoming's road wins and look at how much the committee values road wins. They've won it. That's the thing. That's the selling point for
right.
Wyoming.
Wyoming is not well, but what are Wyoming's road wins? I thought they've done everything at home. Do they win at somebody? I'm forgetting.
At Colorado State.
They won at Colorado
State. That is indeed a good road win. That's it. Yeah, and that's my own fault. I actually, of this group, you see, I'm not as sold on St. Mary's as you guys are, but you guys are unanimous in that fact. I'm not as sold as Illinois as you guys, but you guys are sold on that. I'd actually probably would put Wyoming in over those two, but and Davidson. But
yeah.
as in the art of compromise, right now the Cowboys, they had that pass interference call benefit them, and then
yeah,
their board had a football move called back, and I don't know what to do about it.
I think it's got to be Wyoming, but I mean, if that's what we're going with,
I'll tell you, I would agree with pulling Illinois out to put Wyoming in.
I like Illinois a little. I say I like their profile. It's so hard to look at profiles when you don't have any arms. Okay, again, and this is the first question you always ask with this committee, and committees are different. This committee, what's Illinois done away from home? I don't remember. That's why.
And what they've done away from home, they won at Northwestern, and they have neutral court wins over Indiana State, Baylor, and Missouri.
Baylor is a nice one.
Yeah, that's a nice win, but it's not a road win. It's just a neutral court win.
Yeah, but neutral court, where was that neutral court?
That neutral court was in Las Vegas.
That's a real neutral court. It's not like Chicago or something.
But they have one true road win, and that's at Northwestern.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm there. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to purposely.
All right, St. Mary's, Washington. That gives us a West Coast.
Washington. That's a fun game.
Yes, it is. Oh, that's a great one. Okay. So
Pac-10 versus big WCC. That'll spark it up. And our big debates of Wyoming Davidson get to be hashed out on the 46th line.
Awesome. And again, we'll get to the teams outside the bubble in a second. We're not going to spend really any time debating it or going over it. The under-the-radar teams have their own show, and if you want to go back and listen to it, we already pretty much did it last night. But real quick, some of the teams that are outside the bubble, let's just talk about them a few minutes. Ohio State and Xavier, particularly Xavier. Xavier has been awful away from home. They've won at Missouri, and they have a neutral floor win against San Diego, the Toreros. That is it. They have lost to Long Beach. They have lost to UTEP. They lost at Auburn. They've lost every conference road game they've played. They've lost to teams that are outside the NIT away from home. The committee has not ever taken a team like that. And the more and more it's been trending when you've watched this committee the last few years, it's almost like your home wins are disregarded so much that they almost are irrelevant, and your road losses are also disregarded. So Xavier really has not done anything that will impress the people that are on this particular committee. I don't think. Same with
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Yeah. The one team that we need to really, and you laugh when I say this name, but your defending national champions
Yeah.
are looming. And I actually think that they are right on the cusp right now. They've got a bad record that they need to correct. But if they put up the wins in the American that I think that they can, they have a list of nice little wins to their column. If they take care of business, I think they're going to wind up in.
Well, I think the UConn's best thing they've got going for them right now is even if they are still there on the bubble or below the bubble when we get to the conference tournament, it's going to be in Hartford. I think they're going to. It would shock me if they don't get the automatic bid out of the American. I think it would be a major upset if they did not get the automatic bid, even if SMU and Cincinnati are better teams heading into the tournament.
Yeah. Davidson we put in the field. Alabama is interesting, and I say that because they lost at Wichita by a point, a real snake put against a protected seed, or at least by our projections. And then they went into Arkansas tonight and lost in overtime. Is this a team? Now, I believe they won on the road at Tennessee this year, and I believe it is their only true road win in the last 2 years. So historically, they're bad on the road. Is this a team that's better than its paper, and that maybe they're kind of laying in the weeds a little bit, and as conference play goes on, they're going to get those road wins eventually and get inside the bubble?
I saw Alabama play live. I was actually there when they beat UCLA.
Yeah.
And I'm not impressed with either UCLA or Alabama, is what it came down to after watching that game. When I see teams like, and I'll throw in the last team we have, when I see Davidson versus them, I honestly, especially with Gibbs healthy, I honestly think Davidson is a vastly superior team. Not just a superior team, a vastly superior team. By test.
Yeah. I just want to throw something out here, just a little update. Washington, who we put in the field at one of our last teams, did squeak out a road win tonight at Colorado to kind of avoid us throwing them out of the field.
Right.
And had they lost, I would have been the first one to say go ahead and.
I would agree with you throwing them out if they lost that game.
Yeah.
So.
And again, one of the rough things about doing this on Thursday night, and the reason we do it on Thursday night is because of just the availability of the people that are able to work on this, is it's such a busy night of college basketball. We're doing this during the St. Mary's Gonzaga game. Obviously, Chad will make or whoever builds the bracket will make an executive decision and move St. Mary's a little further up if they manage to get this win. And by a little further up, I mean 3 or 4 lines further up at Gonzaga. So,
do we want to run through the rest of the bracket here, or do we want to just?
Yeah, go ahead. Again, our ratings are pretty much the same, so just.
Well, I'll run through what I have here, and if Dave, if you think anything's way off, let me know.
Okay.
The other two 12 seed teams I have are Green Bay and Stephen F. Austin.
Okay, yeah.
On the 12
I
line.
agree with that, actually, right on.
Yeah, and I do think Green Bay, and more so Green Bay than anyone else, I do think Green Bay's out of strikes, but if they win out, I think they'll end up inside the bubble. So, again, Jovi, can you delete it?
Well, if they win out, they will not need to be bubble.
Well, I mean, win out.
I know what you mean.
All right.
The 13 line I listed as Harvard, Murray State, Bowling Green, and Iona. Bowling Green just because they've now moved into first place in the MAC, and I think they're comparable to Buffalo, but a game ahead of them in the standings.
Yeah, and that's about what I would have as well.
What about Wofford?
I have them down at the top team in the 14 line because of that loss at the Citadel.
Yeah, true.
So
but they have a nice win as well, showing that.
But they gave it all back when you lose to the Citadel and more. It was already There was over 300-point difference in RPI in that game between the two teams.
Yeah, I like Wofford a little more and Harvard a little less than what Chad does. But again, we're not going to hash that out.
Right.
If you want to hear that hashed out, listen to last night's Under the Radar show.
All right. So, Chad, you got Harvard.
Murray State.
I thought it made a lot of sense, actually.
Bowling Green, Iona, then Wofford at number 55, starting the next line.
Oh my God, Iona.
Stupid.
Two bad losses.
It'll be 53 on your screen, 55 overall.
Buffalo should have been, and I am making that move because I'm not a believer in Iona right now, despite their Wake Forest win.
Wow, look at that. Yeah.
So he flipped Wofford and Iona on us. Okay, the next three teams after that are Eastern Washington, North Carolina Central, and Long Beach. And Long Beach, the only reason I rated them so low here was because they've got a losing record right now. And
I like them a lot more.
I like them a lot.
I like them a lot more. I would actually have them up on the 13 where Wofford is. But again, listen to last night's show. I will say this about Long Beach because it is worth mentioning here. Their winning percentage against Division I teams is currently 38%. Their RPI, I believe, is in the 60-70 range.
I got them at 65 right now as we speak.
65.
Well, let's put it this way. Who knows if Cal Davis actually wins that?
Right. Well, I guess, Toby, the point I was making is that if you look at a team way up, like who's up on the RPI, like if you look at your top 20, 30, Buffalo, like if you look at your top 20, 30, 40 teams in the RPI and you look at their current winning percentage, the chances of it increasing aren't going to go up. There isn't a whole significant difference between being 16-4 and 22-4. Long Beach's winning percentage will likely double between now and the end of the season, which will skyrocket their RPI. It might be in the 30s by the end of the year.
Right.
If it's 60.
And Long Beach will move up probably into the 13th seed by the end of the day with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Just they lost to Davis already, and that's what really make me hesitate about them. So
yeah.
High Point after Coastal Carolina lost tonight. Texas Southern and Albany, who went and won at Hartford tonight, is now I think is the best team in the America East.
Yeah, nice win by Albany tonight. We talked about that game last night.
And I missed the other team that you came in and out.
Northeastern is the one you're missing.
Oh,
that was actually the top of the list there, but
yeah, no, and you're right. Northeastern does deserve to be at the top of the list of that. They're actually a very solid squad.
Yeah.
And just as a note, if this did come true, and I confirm this will be the first time since 1996 that neither a MEAC nor a SWAC team was on the 16 line.
Well, Texas Southern doesn't deserve it, and NC Central does not. I mean, they're legit teams.
They are legit. I mean, what's probably going to happen is one or both of them will get upset in their conference tournaments.
Right. But Norfolk State is actually, I actually like Norfolk State as a team when they get going. They'll win that tournament. You know it. They always do.
Well, the best team never does. That's all we know.
Yeah. And they do play at home in the Norfolk, in their home city because the tournament's at the Norfolk Scope. But let's move on. The 16 seeds we have as the non-first four teams American, and I have Georgia Southern because what just happened right before we went on, Louisiana Monroe lost a game in the Sun Belt. Georgia State has fallen completely apart.
What a travesty.
So Georgia Southern's the only team left to pick at this moment in that conference.
Yep.
And the first four games, North Florida, North Dakota State, New Mexico State, and St. Francis Brooklyn. And what a shame that the WAC champion is almost 68. And 67 because I think Brooklyn kind of stinks. Northeast is awful this year.
And oh boy, and now it's time, okay, as soon as we get that updated, it is updated. Now it's time for the last order of business. The last team that we put on the board the Centenary Award winner, and I don't even think we need to discuss. It's not even close. No one has ever been more deserving of the Centenary Award than Florida A&M.
Florida A&M.
Oh,
I was
brother.
You know what? I would want to make. I do disagree here. I would really argue Bad Davidson.
Oh, fuck.
Bad Davidson just got a top 25 win.
No, that was
Right,
Good Davidson that got the top 25 win. No, Florida A&M is. We've mentioned this before. This could be a historically bad team.
Yes, we might need to add them to the Centenary Award title. So.
Well, and there'll be, because there's arguments whether it should be the Centenary Award or the Grambling Award.
Yeah.
What Florida A&M would have in unique is they are not from the state of Louisiana.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And Grambling won 2 games when the only time they've won the award from us has been they won 2 games. They weren't D1 games, but they won 2 games.
Yeah.
FAMU is not going to win a game this year against anybody. Right. FAMU would get pounded by Huston Tillotson.
Yeah, they probably would.
They would lose to Huston Tillotson's baseball team. So.
Right. Okay, so that's the rundown. We'll get this bracketed, and by the time you watch or listen to this, we'll probably already have it bracketed. The only potential change I see is if SMC comes back and wins at Gonzaga. Otherwise, I think it pretty much stays stagnant. So.
Yeah, I don't see any other changes. Well, no one else is currently playing that is on this field or in the bubble. So yeah, so that's the only game that could change anything.
Right. And we're hoping to get all this onto one MP3. So. All right.
Well, I guess with that, we're done. So.
Great ending. Our host, ladies and gentlemen.
Get the hell out of here. David, want to redo your ACC Digital Network, or are we good with it?
We're submitting this. Okay. I can't wait to get their response. We will let you know as soon as we hear from them.
Okay.
And I might add, I've just gotten a note from Lee Del Vecchio. He apologizes for all that he said about Yellow Jackets Nation this past week.
All right.
If you want something amusing, go back and listen to Sunday night's podcast and Lee Del Vecchio talk about how much he loved this Georgia Tech team this year. What did they get pounded by? About 40 points, which when you play Virginia, that's equal to about 200-point loss.
He and I were both drunk, I think. It was great stuff. Go back and listen.